ago, when I first began teaching, I was given the opportunity to watch Mrs. Irvin in action. And the strategies that you see here are the ones that I watched her implement over and over, which made her classroom one of the most successful that I've had a chance to witness. So 10 years ago, Mrs. Irvin, I had the opportunity to watch you in action in the classroom. And so these are the strategies that I got to see you do over and over that I think made your classroom just so outstanding. So I wanted you to have an opportunity to share with our newbies about each strategy and kind of how you implement them in your classroom.
It's very important for children to know that you love them, and you can do this in so many ways. A touch, a look, even a reprimand, because children need to know boundaries. They need to know that you love them no matter what, and that's all in love, and I know that they understand that. You give them compliments, you hug them, you touch them, you let them know how smart they are, how beautiful they are, and that's a way of showing love.
Now, would that work with older kids too, do you think?
Yes, I do. I feel that. There was a book that I read some time ago, and it was mainly for the older children. And I think the title of the book is To Teach Me, is to know me. And when you know someone, you love them. You know their weaknesses, you know what they like. And I think that all is under the umbrella of love.
Yeah.
You have to know your babies to teach them, and you have to take time to get to know them, knowing their likes, knowing what they don't like, knowing what their currency is. And I think that's so important, because by doing that, you're letting them know that you care. And I can go back to the book that I was mentioning before. To teach me is to know me. And you have to know their learning styles, their interests. You also need to know their family background, if you can, because a lot of ways you can really get to be a part of the family, and that happens a lot with the children that I've had over the years. We have this thing going in our classroom is when I have to say things to remind them to do something, they know it's like a waste of time. All right? Mrs. Irvin has to call my name, or she has to say something. So we try not to do that. So we use sign language, looking. There have been symbols or different things that are said, like "give me 5." And when you say "give me 5," then they know exactly what you need. And so you don't have to really use your voice. There's another one that we use sometimes. It's active listening. I just put up the peace sign, and they know what to do. Okay? So we try to do that every day, and the children are using them also.
Nice. So for this next strategy, looking for opportunities to publicly praise your kids. This is something I saw you do over and over all day long. Can you tell us a little bit about how you put that into use?
That is so important, not just for the babies, but for anyone. I want to know that we're doing the right thing, that we're making good choices, that we're making contributions. And I think when the children know that you appreciate how they are and what they're doing and making good choices, it makes a difference. They kind of feed off each other. If they see someone else making a good choice, a lot of times they will emulate, and that's a good time to do it. So you have to know there's something good in everything that's done. Something good in everything that's done. And we have to kind of look for that in the baby. All of them. All of them.
Now, sometimes I've heard it said that you have to be careful with this strategy because there's some teachers that will, just praise everything and everybody all the time. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the judicious use of this strategy for it to be effective?
Praise has to be specific.
Okay.
They need to know exactly what they're getting the praise for. A lot of times I will say, I like the way you're listening with the essential agreements. we have some babies that are very kind. So I will say, "You're being so kind." There are stickers that say, "You're caring." So it's specific. They know what it is. Just like going to.
So it's not a generic, "Oh, you're doing a good job." It's very,
No.
very specific.
No, we have this little jar, and with the little jar, it's for compliments that they get from other people. And so today we were walking down the hall, and the principal stopped and said, "I didn't know you were." They love that.
Right. I didn't even know you were in the hall.
And that's what happened. And she was very specific about what she said. So they have earned marbles for that job. And they love it. So no, it cannot be just a big blanket thing. You have to be specific.
Okay.
So if it's a behavior that you want to see again, they will know what to do.
Okay. Specifically. Got it. So one thing I noticed is if you ever had to correct a student, you never ever did it calling their name, like you did it anonymously. Can you talk a little bit or explain to our new teachers or newbies kind of how that works as far as if you have to make a correction, your whole group, what to do so that you're not giving undue attention?
There are two realms to that. We can talk about behavior or we can talk about academics. And a lot of times that's an individual thing when it's academics. And it's also individual when it's behavior. Because proximity plays a big part. You go over and you touch. Or some occasions I've given children choices.
Yes, I heard that
Okay,
today.
and the thing about it is they have to make the choice to do the right thing. And that doesn't usually come until after I've had to look or kind of say something more than once or twice. And when they make the choice, they're expected to abide by that choice. And if they do not, then the consequence follows. You don't have to say anything other than, "I see you've made your choice." And then they know what to do.
Nice. One thing I never saw is I never saw you call out a child though by name if they were doing something wrong. Usually, like you might give a choice, but you would never say so and so you weren't crossing your legs, or so and so you were talking out, or so and so you didn't raise your hand. It was always very, someone is not raising their hand, someone is not looking at me, or something like that. What's wrong with calling them out by name?
Brings attention to them, and a lot of times it gives them the attention that they're looking for. And you want to not lose any valuable learning time
Gotcha.
by doing that. So sometimes you may have to, depending on what's going on. But I really, as a rule, try not to. I will go over and move, or if someone else is teaching, I'll go and sit next to them. If there is a co-teaching situation, or if you have a para in your room, that can be a working arrangement that you have, that if you see someone that's having an issue, just to go and sit next to them, be close to them, model the behavior that you want them to have. Because calling out names all the time takes away from valuable learning time.
That's true. That's true. Another thing I noticed is if you had 20 kids in the room and one of them wasn't sitting correctly, that you would stop what you were doing and kind of say something to get that one chickadee back on track. And I thought that was really interesting, because a lot of new teachers would say, well, 19 out of 20, that's pretty good. But you didn't. Can you share with our newbies a little bit about that strategy of kind of focusing on those little things when they don't do those correctly?
Proximity again. You need to know how to go over and touch, or go over and look, or go over and whisper. Or if you say something to the whole group, or just specify, "I like the way someone is doing something." Most times, all of the children will follow suit. You have to pay attention to pretty much everything, even the not so good things. And when that person that's having a problem focusing. And when they do, you make a big deal of it, and you'll see that more often.
Mm-hmm. One thing I never saw is I never saw you call out a child though by name if they were doing something wrong. Usually, like you might give a choice, but you would never say so and so you weren't crossing your legs, or so and so you were talking out, or so and so you didn't raise your hand. It was always very, someone is not raising their hand, someone is not looking at me, or something like that. What's wrong with calling them out by name?
Brings attention to them, and a lot of times it gives them the attention that they're looking for. And you want to not lose any valuable learning time by doing that. So sometimes you may have to, depending on what on what's going on. But I really, as a rule, try not to. I will go over and move, or if someone else is teaching, I'll go and sit next to them. If there is a co-teaching situation, or if you have a para in your room, that can be a working arrangement that you have, that if you see someone that's having an issue, just to go and sit next to them, be close to them, model the behavior that you want them to have. Because calling out names all the time takes away from valuable learning time.
That's true. That's true.
Instructions are very, very important. Sometimes we take for granted that children already know certain things. With things as simple as the glue stick, or holding a pencil, or how you should sit to the table. We talk about it. We talk about why they've been asked, and you explain, well, we don't want to waste the glue. And when you sit T to the table, which is your tummies touch the table, then you won't fall if you're on the edge, especially if you're using a pencil or scissors or things like that. So, and with the exactness of the instructions, it needs to be modeled. They need to see you do it. Just like with gluing sometimes. You'll have children that will take the glue and put it in one whole section, and then they have a little picture to put there. So you explain to them why they shouldn't. And you may have to do it several times, but that will help in the end. Okay. You must be clear about the consequences that follow choices that should not be made. And you have to always follow through with what you say. And you have to be consistent in what your expectations are. I can honestly say that it works. And I can give you a scenario with my own son that I had the opportunity to teach when he was in kindergarten. I think I had asked my baby that was sitting on the carpet with everyone else not to do something. And what I asked him not to do, he continued. And so he had to have this consequence where he stood. Now, I don't like isolating children from the group. If they're going to stand or sit, they need to be close to what's going on so they will not miss any instructional time. Now, this was my own personal child, and he stood, and I don't let them stand for long. When I see them standing really nice, they can come back and join us. But that made a difference in his life for his entire school career. I do believe that. Because not once did a teacher have to say anything. See, I was being mom and also teacher. So he learned that. And a lot of times I'll give children choices. I'll say to them, would you prefer to go sit at the table? Or would you prefer to stay on the carpet with us? And it's done just that way. It's just what they learn. And it's just that way. Children need to know what expectations are. They have to know. And that's something that needs to be talked about. Something that needs to be supported at all times, in every situation. The playground, in the hallway, the cafeteria. They have to know what the expectations are. We have a program called SEL, which is Social Emotional Learning, and we're constantly, not just the one segment during the day, but we're constantly talking about how we should act, what should we do. We're using words like empathy and compassion and being kind, and that's being more proactive where scenarios are given and they know, and we discuss them. So when they come up, they'll know what to do. Um, Sometimes you react, and when you react, you have to be honest in your feelings. You have to say, I did not like it when, and then have the babies respond, you didn't like it when I did. And then there needs to be a discussion about how we can make it better. And that has worked when they give their own I messages. And they're implementing something now that's called restorative practices. And it kind of goes hand in hand with what I've tried to do for a long, long time. And it goes to the next level in asking them, well, what were you thinking of when you did that? So what are you going to do to make it right? So I think as long as you have those kind of conversations in any situation where choices that were made were not favorable, it'll make a difference.
This one is high expectations. I learned. So definitely one strategy that I learned from you more than any other is just to have really high expectations for your children. So I wanted you to talk to our new teachers about the importance of that and kind of how you implement that in your classroom.
All right. Most times children will give you exactly what you expect from them. A lot of times you can say that really about humans. All of us, really. The children need to know that they're special, that they are somebody, that they can do anything that they want to as long as they put their mind to it. That has to be cultivated through literature, through songs, through poetry, even when they're in everyday. We had an instance this morning where a baby came in and he was crying. Several of the children went over and showed that empathy and showed that compassion. We have to model also what we want them to do. And it works. If you give them a situation where it's risk-free, where they are allowed to make mistakes and know that from mistakes we learn from them, then they will soar. They will soar. Accept what they say, even if it's different from what you expected, because most times they can explain to you why. And that needs to be, that worth needs to be felt. So having high expectations is ultimate, I feel. There's a saying that says that children grow up to be the love that they have known. That is so true. We have to give them all that we can while we can, because children are nature's greatest. And that's something that kind of sticks with me, and I read it in a poem somewhere many, 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 many years ago. There is a saying or some words that stuck with me that I read years ago. I've tried to locate who wrote this, but it was an entire writing. But the thing that stuck out to me, or it resonates in almost everything that I do, and it says that children are nature's greatest prize. You can feel it with their touch and see it in their eyes. No effort is too great, and all are worthwhile, because it's impossible to outgive the love of a child. When you love a baby, you're going to expect their best. You're going to do all you can to give them your best. I'm fortunate to be doing what I do. I absolutely love this job. And I won't call it a job. It's almost like
calling.
It's a calling. Mm-hmm. It's a purpose. So thank you for this opportunity.
So what do you do when the video's over but you still need more information? That's easy. Introducing Newbie, a resource for new and developing teachers. This is the book that I wish that I had during my first few years in the classroom, and it's jam-packed with all of the information that people won't tell you but that you need to know. Imagine information in one place on how to develop effective lesson plans, complete with lesson planning templates, samples, and examples that you can use right away. But not only that, Newbie also has information on specific behavior management strategies that you can put into place right away. And it has lots of other helpful information, including information you won't find anywhere else, like how to develop an ideal class culture, or information on organization and on time management, something that is really key during your first few years on the job. But supplies are limited, so take advantage of this opportunity and order now. Your kids will sure be glad that you did.